All right, so I'm John Shoemaker. I'm one of the operations leaders at BASF in McIntosh, Alabama. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing right now today with AI that everyone in this room can do. There are a few things I'll talk about that you can't do, but we're going to give some real examples of what things you can do with ChatGPT or something else that's freely available online. I will say the things that we do at BASF are behind our firewalls, and there are kind of our own tools, but I've tested out what I was asking it to do on ChatGPT, and pretty much I was able to do it. So this is stuff you can do free. When we really talk about the potential of AI, I think it's just limitless. I mean, I haven't really, I've looked a lot of stuff at BASF 4.0 and Factory of the Future and things like that. But now that we've got AI, it really changes the game for me. And I really see just tremendous potential, particularly as I've been using it. This is what one of our senior leaders have said, and I'm going to read it. AI offers enormous potential for BASF, whether to become more productive through AI, assistance in the office, or to accelerate innovation through AI-based productions of new molecules. AI will not only transform the chemical industry, but also the industries of our customers and suppliers. After playing around with it, I agree with him. It's just tremendous at how low a level you can get in with AI of how it can help improve every day. What is it for me? It's a series of tools that are just incredibly powerful. They can perform complex analysis, they can create content, and you can really use them even for brainstorming. Our HR manager is famous for, hey, I need to have a session with my team. What are some topics? He'll get on our chat BASF, and within 5 minutes, he's got a whole bunch of stuff that he can, why don't you go look into these? These are all the good things. You can analyze and theorize. I will say the quality of the information really is based on the documents that it's going through. So it has to learn off of documentation that's provided. So if your quality of your information is not good, it's not going to give you good results. So here's an example. I took the title or the bio that we had for this presentation today. I put it into our chat BASF. 10 seconds later, I had an outline for my presentation. I didn't necessarily follow it, but there it was. I've had other examples where I've had emails that I've had to write that was going to go corporate. I used an acronym. It said rewrite this document. I used an acronym in it. It rewrote the document, and at the bottom of it, it said, what does this acronym mean? What was this? I was like, you got to be kidding me. I couldn't believe it. So I answered it. And then it asked me another question, and I answered that one. And then it rewrote the document again, and it was a much better document after asking me questions about it. Just incredible at what it can create. What is it at BASF? We've got custom applications. So there's around 30 tools either that have been developed or in the process of developing. I mentioned that you can do some brainstorming. We'll cover some of these examples where we can create code. We can do gap analysis. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And there's some things that are going on corporately that I don't necessarily have access to, where they're theorizing at molecules and other things. I mean, it's getting into every aspect of what we do. Here's an example. This is some text for my resume. Some of that stuff at the top box has been there for 15 years. Put it into the chat BASF. I got what was out on the bottom. Much clearer, much more concise. All the key points that were in the above document or in the below document. Resume reads much better now after putting it into ChatGPT. It's a chat BASF, but basically the same thing. Everybody here today can go onto ChatGPT and do this with their own stuff. It will make you, as an individual, much higher performer. I have a daughter. We homeschooled her. Really haven't done a lot with computers. Right now, she's a freshman at South. She's struggling with Excel. Asked, tell me how to do pivot tables. Here's a real quick how-to guide on how to execute a pivot table. All these definitions, it tells you how to do it. It tells you all the tricks that you struggled through. I know for me, I struggled with the rules about you can't have a column with the same name and blah, 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 blah. It tells you all right here in this one little document. You got a question about it, you can expand on it. All like that. Saves just tremendous amount of time when you're trying to teach somebody. Then they can go and ask their own questions and get their own answers very, very quickly. We can write VB code. So, if you're trying to configure something in Excel, you're trying to configure something in Power BI, you got SQL Server, you can come in here and you can put in something like this. I have tabular data in Excel, almost redundant information. I need to delete with any row that was in 15 minutes of the row next to it. It's in a timestamp column. I need a macro to do this. 15 seconds later, I had a macro. It tells me how to input it, it tells me about it, and it tells me how the code works. And if I put it in there and it doesn't work, I can talk to it about what went wrong with the code, and it'll help me fix it. That spreadsheet I was trying to analyze was something like 500 lines long. It probably would have taken me 3 or 4 hours to sit there and go through line by line to delete each one of them. Or it would have probably taken me 2 years of fiddling around with, 2 hours of fiddling around with it to make it work. Here it was, I had a macro. I played with it a little bit, but here it was, I had a macro inside of 10 minutes, and 15 minutes later, I had my spreadsheet analyzed. That would have taken me all day, or a half a day. With the way my schedule works, you want me to do 4 hours, I'm gonna have to do it on a Friday, or if I try to do it during the week, it's gonna take me a week or more. Here it is, you're done in 15 minutes. Tremendous. Procedural gap analysis. We have the ability at BASF, I didn't necessarily give an example of this, but we can take a standard like our Control of Hazardous Energy standard, we can upload it into a tool as a PDF, we can tell it, analyze that, compare it back to OSHA standards and all the letters of interpretation, and then it'll spit out a document to tell you where all the places are that you may have gaps compared to the standard. That'd probably take 2 or 3 people a week or 2 to go through and I try to identify all that. Huge for maintaining compliance. Can't imagine what's going to happen when the auditors get a hold of that and they come back and start looking at our site and start using this instead of reading it line by line. Huge. Imagine this if you start now bringing in some of your ASME codes and other things that you can use, that you have to use and have to comply with. It's tremendous. You can take a 20-year engineer and, I don't necessarily know that you replace them, but you take the 20-year engineer and you gain a lot of experience with them and make them a whole lot more efficient. I see an infinite number of tools coming. I mean, people are going to talk after me about the companies and the things that they're doing that are just huge. But, the way I view it is there's going to be people that are successful that are using AI, and there's going to be everybody else. For me, I think this is going to be something equivalent to like when the internet came out. Maybe not the advent of computers, but I think it's going to be similar with how it can transform how people can perform. Right now, some of the things that we're working on and we'll be working on at our site is being able to take all of our technical information for our plants, upload it into a data set that will have a limited ChatGPT kind of tool. Imagine taking your procedures, your training manuals, your safety reviews, all of those different things, putting it in one spot, and now giving your operator the ability to say, what happens if? And it can spit out information. We'll have to do a lot of vetting of it to make sure it's right, but that's huge. I mean, that's going to allow us to unlock performance that we've never been able to unlock before. So, questions or comments? Yes, ma'am.
I love the idea of the chat BASF. I know that behavioral change is often a challenge with the adoption of new technologies like this. What has the behavioral adoption been like within BASF?
I'd say it's not being pushed. I mean, there are things at BASF 4.0 where they've pushed. Frankly, there's been a lot of resistance. There's been a lot of resistance to it because it feels like you're implementing a BASF 4.0 tool to people instead of for them, and you don't see the efficiency gains. These are tools that are out there. They're not necessarily being pushed, but once people start seeing them and using them, it's like, oh, I can use this for anything. Once people are doing it, and they get a little bit used to it, and I think they speak for themselves.
I made a really cool headshot with stable diffusion.
Yes, sir.
I did actually want to expand on one point. First, I was a little triggered as a cybersecurity guy seeing VBA and Excel.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to drop malware. But expanding on that, if you come up with a prompt that more describes your problem rather than the solution you're looking for, I find that you'll often find that it can suggest alternatives. So, like
Yeah.
in that case, there are other tools within Excel that don't make your cybersecurity guys lose their hair. Just want to throw that one out there.
Okay. Yes, sir.
The specific chat GPT to your company, is it geared in like the verbiage and the way it's wired? Is it like use your nomenclature and like provide information specific about your company procedures, policies, and the way y'all communicate within your own organization?
It does with that procedural review.
Yeah.
My understanding is the way they got the chat BASF is they bought a chat from somebody. They brought it inside of the BASF networks and let it learn on the BASF documentation in a kind of a controlled environment and then started letting it get out. So it does, but I haven't really noticed it, where you put something in it and it comes up with something that really looks like all the BASF acronyms and things like that. Not saying it won't, I just haven't.
Is it multilingual? I mean, because I know your company works in many different languages.
I'm sure it is.
German, English, and French right now. Spanish. German, English, Spanish.
I do know if you're not careful and you do the procedural review thing, it will tell you how you don't comply with Chinese regulations, but but I don't know if it'll spit that out in Chinese or not.
Question back in the back.
Question in the back?
Yeah.
Look.
I guess from a procedural analysis, because obviously these are getting updated off databases all the time, and I guess my question is, how does BASF handle that from a ownership perspective? Say if you are doing a procedural gap analysis, say I'm comparing our procedures to OSHA, they updated it in between the time the last update to our OpenAI model or what chat BASF was being used. Who owns that if it's getting generated by an AI?
Well, I mean, you're still the procedure owner. You're still the one responsible for ensuring that your procedures are compliant with the standard. AI is just a tool in that. If you've got knowledge that something has come out after they kind of closed the window for being able to learn about what was out there with the AI, at least from BASF perspective, you still own the compliance to the new standard.